Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yep. We got a must-win tonight for two ball clubs. That's Kentucky and Tennessee. They're both coming off losses, and that's no bueno. You don't want to lose two in a row. Also, we're going to talk about why Jim Knowles left OSU for Penn State, one of their dreaded rivals. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Let's get into this.
I hope you have a strong stomach, senor.
Roll the ugliness.
All right, we're going to take a look at these standings. I'm going to show you why this game tonight at 7 o'clock at Thompson Bowling Arena is critical for both Kentucky and Tennessee. Neither team can afford another loss. If they lose this game, they can forget any shot at winning an SEC title. They're already both in trouble. And Tennessee lost a really tough game Saturday against Auburn, which would have been a huge win, especially on the road, but they lost by 2 points. They had every opportunity to win it. But that dropped them to 4-3 in the conference, and now they're 3 full games behind Auburn. That would have, God, they'd only been 1 game behind and had a win on the road. Kentucky has lost 2 in a row. They're now 3-3. They absolutely cannot lose another game. This also puts them in jeopardy of getting knocked out of the NCAA tournament if they don't turn it around here pretty soon. So both these teams really need a win. And we've also got to talk about an injury report for both teams. Kentucky is going to be without Lamont Butler, and this is a guy that plays 27 minutes, scores 13 points a game. I mean, he's very important to Kentucky. That's a tough loss for them. Also, Kerr Kriisa, who's a backup guard, plays about 17 minutes, scores about 4 points a game. That's not a critical loss. Then Andrew Carr is questionable, and that's a very important player for them. Scores 11 points a game, plays 26 minutes. That's a tough situation there. Tennessee, of course, is without J.P. Estrella, who's been out for the whole year. He's got a foot problem. He won't be back. And Estrella was our enforcer in the middle, so losing him has been very problematic. And, of course, we also had Carr leave the team. We've only got 9 scholarship players. That's just the way that it is. So this game couldn't be more important tonight. Mark Pope, who I think was a really good hire for Kentucky, he needs to I'm sorry, it's just a must-win. Both teams are got their backs against the wall, and it's got to go one way or the other. So this should be a really tough game. I expect both teams to come out with all guns blazing, so to speak. And Tennessee usually shoots a lot better at home for some. I hate that that's the case, but it's the truth. And that's most teams. It's so hard to play on the road. My brothers and I, we talk about that all the time. And the only way that I know how to compare this, if you've ever played golf, you know how when you're playing it on your home track and you seem to always play well, and then when you go to Florida or somewhere, you struggle? That's what playing on the road's like. Playing on a course you're not familiar with. And you get all the momentum against you. So anyway, I'm looking for a great game tonight. Also, I want to talk about Jim Knowles leaving Ohio State. I've been covering that, and I've been trying to dig into the reasons why he left because it really didn't make any sense. Ohio State had offered him a bunch of money. They just won a national title. None of this made any sense to me. But I think I've found out why, or at least this is what people are saying up in Ohio State land. Knowles and Ryan had an agreement, and Knowles was going to run a very aggressive defense, a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which means he would occasionally give up a big play, and that was sort of an understanding. But Ryan decided, through the season that, hey, I want you to change this up and go back to more of a conservative style of defense, keep everything in front of you, that sort of thing. And that didn't sit well with Knowles. Now, it worked out great. So you would think, hey, y'all were the #1 defense in the country. But look, these are alpha males. It's just the way it is. They want to run things the way they want to run them, and they must have done this. You also had the issue with Larry Johnson, who is the defensive line coach, who's really, really good. They didn't get along either, so Knowles is obviously a bit of an eccentric dude. So he went to Penn State, and State offered more money as well. So had it been a 50-50, Penn State's offering a few extra $100,000, we'll see how that plays out. He probably was told he could run the defense the way he wants. So that's what I'm hearing. And also the game that I think was in question, I got this from a commenter who watches the show, and he said it was the Oregon game, in his opinion, is when Day switched and said, hey, go back to conservative because they gave up a lot of points to Oregon. And there's one other story that I think is very interesting for all college sports fans is how much money is being spent. Ohio State actually had a $38 million 2024 physical deficit. In other words, they spent $38 million more than they had in the kitty. They spent $292 million over the year, and they brought in $254. So you're going to see more and more of this where you're going to have athletic departments running a deficit. And then they're going to have to go get money from donors and raising tickets and things like that because you want to win. Now, I can go ahead and tell you, there are no Ohio State fans out there that are upset that they ran a deficit. If it were my team, I wouldn't give a crap. It's like, hey, you won the Natty. You can spend however much you want. But it does become a problem for the athletic director. This guy's name's Ross Bjork. It's not the singer, I don't believe. Anyway, yeah, he's going to have to deal with this. And it's a problem. And it's going to be a problem for every single team out there. Now, Tennessee had total operating revenue of $234 million. So what's that, about $20 million less than Ohio State, but pretty close. These are your big dogs. You know, the teams that bring in over $200 million in revenue are really your top 10 teams. And those are the ones that are going to spend 20 to 22 million on their revenue sharing. And we all know from the NIL that, look, you've got to spend money if you want to win anymore. I mean, it's going to be a race to the top or a race to the bottom line. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting story. And again, I'm not upset with Tennessee spending a bunch of money either. Look, we made the playoff. As long as you make the playoff, nobody's going to get mad at you for, how much you spend or how much you take in, even if there's a deficit. It's when you don't make the playoff, then people are going to start looking at that and really start giving you grief. And it's going to be super interesting to see how NIL plays after April 7th when the judge makes a decision on that settlement. Because if you look at, who spent the money last year, these are the teams that had the best records. It's just a fact. The top four, for example, every one of them, of course, made the playoff, and some of them made a really deep run. Georgia was sixth. The only team that didn't make the playoff in the top six was LSU. And I know this is not a popular thing to talk about because people don't like talking about money in sports, but it's just the reality. College has become NFL-like. It's kind of the way it is. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to that game tonight between Kentucky. Look, Kentucky's a blue blood. It's always been a big rivalry for Tennessee and vice versa. Kentucky and Tennessee have always been kind of like that in basketball. So it should be a really fun game. Oh, and I do want to say one thing to the YouTubers out there. I know some of y'all watch my stuff. This is the slower time of year. I know a lot of y'all are probably not getting the views that you're used to. I've been doing this for a few years now, so I've kind of gotten used to having the ebbs and the flows. During the season, you get a bunch of views, and then off season, it kind of tapers down. Look, it's going to be okay. Don't quit. Don't get down on yourself. You're putting out the same content.
It's not your fault. I know. It's not your fault.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's just the way that it is. But anyway, I enjoy basketball, and I enjoy covering football during the offseason because there's going to be a lot of news. My God, we've got a settlement coming April 7th. You've got realignment talk from time to time. There's going to be plenty of news out there, and, of course, always recruiting. So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit this little button right here. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Man's got to know his limitations.